Many stories about the Rosary adorn church history. A particularly moving one comes from Scotland in the year 1615. On March 10th that year, at the famous intersection of Glasgow Cross in Glasgow, Scotland, a priest was executed. He was hung, drawn, and quartered in accordance with the practices of a bloody and violent era. The priest was St. John Ogilvie, a Jesuit who had snuck into the country in disguise in order to minister to Scottish Catholics who were being persecuted. After less than a year of clandestine preaching and sacraments, he was betrayed and arrested. Then he was imprisoned and tortured in order to force him to reveal information about his collaborators. But even torture wouldn't make him talk. Eventually, he was condemned to death for treason because he refused to accept the king's supposed authority over religious worship and teaching. So they marched him through the streets and up the gallows, where he was publicly hanged and disemboweled as a warning to other undercover Catholics. Somehow, throughout his imprisonment and torture, he managed to maintain possession of his rosary. Maybe it had been praying the rosary that gave him so much strength to endure such terrible suffering. In any case, on the morning of his execution, he still had his rosary with him, hidden from view. And as they pushed him off the stairs of the gallows, and as the noose tightened around his neck, he managed to toss his rosary out into the dense crowd of spectators. Tradition tells us that the beads were caught by one of the saint's anti-Catholic enemies, who from that moment on began a spiritual journey that eventually led him into the Catholic Church, where he lived a devout and humble faith for the rest of his life. Certainly it wasn't the physical rosary that changed that man's heart. Only God's grace can do that. But the rosary was clearly one of the channels of God's grace for him, as it has been for millions of Catholics through the centuries, from popes to paupers. The rosary can be a powerful instrument of God's grace. It's a powerful form of prayer, tried and true. To appreciate and benefit from the rosary more fully, we need to locate it within Marian devotion in general. And that's what this retreat guide, River of Wisdom, a retreat guide on the rosary, will try to do. In the first meditation, we will look at the essence of Marian devotion and one fundamental form of that devotion. In the second meditation, we will look at two other basic forms of Marian devotion. And in the conference, we will talk about the practical activities, including praying the rosary, that can help us develop and benefit from this devotion in our daily lives. But before we dive in, take a few moments to remind yourself that the person most interested in your having a good experience of this retreat guide is God Himself. He is eager to spend this time with you. He has something He wants to say to you. Thank Him for that, and ask Him for all the graces you need to keep growing in that relationship that you have with Him. And maybe ask in a special way for the grace to take a refreshing drink from our own river of wisdom.